Alright guys, welcome back to my channel. I geek out when it comes to this topic, and I hope I can share that excitement with you guys. I've been wanting to do this video and I just think it's just perfect timing to do it on today, because today is the day of relationships. And it doesn't even mean that it could be romantic relationships. It could be any type. But this video is going to explore your model when it comes to relationships. So let's get into it. As humans, we have a blueprint when it comes to how things work in the world, and these are called schemas in psychology. I'll just call it a blueprint, and it is based off of things we learned from our childhood. That's often where we base that blueprint and how we see things as right and wrong, moral code, and relationships. So our blueprint is often based off of the earliest relationships we have, and that is with our parents or caregiver. And because of this, it will affect how we are in future relationships. So there's different types of people based on the type of blueprint that they've created. Now, there's obviously variation. People are different. We have different experiences. But Mary Ainsworth, which was a psychologist, she did the study and she kind of created different categories, four to be exact, of the different type of people and the way they approach relationships. Now, once you kind of know, the cool thing about this, once you kind of know the type of blueprint you've kind of had through life, you are able to notice why you see things the way you are and why you are the way you are in relationships and why you've been attracting the same type of person over and over again. And the cool thing is, once you can identify this, you can also change it. So you're not stuck in the same cycle, which a lot of people do for a lot of their adulthood, which is like scary because that's insanity. So I'm going to go over them real quick with you. Hopefully put it in like the most basic terms that can be applied, not just like sciencey terminology. So the first one, so there's two main categories, but the first one is securely attached. So this means a child that was born into a stable household, received consistent attention, consistent love, felt safe, felt confident that their parent or caregiver would attain to their needs, their emotional needs, physical needs, security needs. So they felt safe, they felt loved, they felt secure. Now these people often, and I highly envy these people because they tend to be the most successful in relationships and often in life, because they don't have all this emotional baggage and all these, like, I guess, I don't know, these insecurities or these things that kind of throw them off. They are very confident. They tend to be very confident. They tend to be very emotionally intelligent. They are the healthiest emotionally in relationships. They tend to be great at communicating with their emotions, are great at being single, and they're great at being in relationships. So they tend to have a positive view when it comes to relationships. Good thing about them, like, I get so bitter when I tell them, like, oh, it must be nice, is when it comes to conflict and stuff, they're really good at conflict. They know that when there is conflict in a relationship, that it's normal. They don't have abandonment issues. They're not worried. They know it's just temporary, and they're able to communicate with their partner a lot better. And lastly, when it comes to breakups or relationships ending, they are able to just take it for what it is, learn from it, and just bounce back, and it doesn't affect them as intensely as it would others. So these people pretty much got it together, and not to say that they have their whole lives together, but when it comes to relationships, they definitely have a leg up on a lot of people. And this is about, I think it's about 40% of the population has this type of attachment style, which is pretty high, but still there's that other 60. So if you identify with this, must be nice. And the ultimate goal, obviously, is to be securely attached when it comes to relationships and how you see yourself in a relationship. So moving on to the other 60, which is insecure attachment styles. And that's 60% of you guys. The thing is, it's not something you choose. You know what I mean? It's something you can choose to change, but it's not something that you're like, when you're born, you're like, I'm gonna be insecurely attached in relationships. No, like it's definitely not. So if you can identify what you are, you're already a step ahead of the game, because you can kind of be mindful and then do things to change it. So this is the part that kind of gets confusing, because there's 3 subcategories and I kind of mix them up because of the names, but we'll just go over what the traits are. There's anxious preoccupied attachment style. So I'm just going to read it, the traits, and we'll see where we go. People tend to be more nervous and less secure about relationships in general. Specifically in romantic relationships. These people tend to be very anxious. They tend to have abandonment issues. These people are, and the reason for this is their parent was inconsistent with them when it came to the love and care that they got. So sometimes their parent would be there emotionally for them, and sometimes they weren't. Because of that inconsistency, they aren't sure what the world or their partner will give them, so they're constantly anxious. They are constantly anxious and constantly need that reassurance. So that's the key word for these people, is they need reassurance to know that the love is there. They tend to manifest into neediness, possessiveness, jealousy, controlling moods, mood swings, oversensitivity, and obsessiveness. So these are all things that are manifested because of this feeling of uncertainty, right? Don't want to give their partner benefit of the doubt. They often see things as negative, so they assume the most negative situation in relationships, and to interpret people's behaviors and actions and words as from a negative standpoint. And this is to prove that blueprint that they kind of had, that schema, right? That's why we are, as humans, we are constantly trying to prove that blueprint right, because that's what we know. So it's like, if A plus B equals C, like if you are acting like this and then you said this, then it has to equal this. So if you've told me that you're going out, but you don't call me, then of course you're cheating on me. Like, that is their logic. To them, that is the logic, where it's not always the case. The C part, like the answer could be so many things, but that is what they've known, so that is what makes sense to them. Any other thing wouldn't make sense to them. Like, you went out, you didn't message me, you're just having fun with your friends. Like, to them, that's like, yeah, right, that's definitely not the option. Your ass is cheating on me. So I'm gonna ring you down, I'm gonna break up with you, and I'm gonna make you feel like trash for doing it. So people like that, it's messed up to say that it's not their fault, but at the same time, when you understand where someone's coming from and the trauma they went through, you tend to not take it as personal, and you tend to understand, like, this is kind of just how they were raised, you know, and they're just repeating that. A lot of these people tend to start fights with their partner, and this is to show, it's 2 things: to prove that blueprint right, like I said, like that give and take kind of thing, like, ooh, I love you, but I'm not going to be there. So it's like that hot and cold, those extremes that they felt as a child, the love and the I guess the parent not being there, I guess, emotionally. As well as starting fights will allow their partner to kind of reassure them that they're not going anywhere, and they kind of strive. That's where their comfort zone is, because to them, when things are going good, it's like, you're lying to me, this is not real, it's too good to be true type of approach. Which is, it's crazy. At one point in my life, I think I related to this heavy. These people often do not like to be alone. They need someone to validate their existence, to validate them as a person, so they tend to hop from one relationship to the next. And they have a history of repeating turbulent relationships. So you know that friend that breaks up with their boyfriend, gets back with them, breaks up with their boyfriend, gets back with them, breaks up with their boyfriend, gets back with them. It's like this pattern, and then they might break up with their boyfriend, have another boyfriend, and it's literally the same relationship over again. That is the blueprint in it. that is occurring. They're just recreating it, and if they're not aware of it, it's going to keep happening literally the rest of their lives. So dismissive avoidant attachment style. So these people had a childhood where their parent was not that present, and they had to grow up really quickly. So their emotional needs were tended to self-sufficiently. So either their mother had postpartum depression, it's very common, so the mother wasn't there emotionally, or they were abandoned as a child, or their parent believed in like very minimal emotional reassurance. So these people tend to be very independent, very emotionally cold or withdrawn. They dislike intimacy at all costs. It makes them so uncomfortable. They really, really do not want to be vulnerable. So when it comes to relationships, they aren't emotionally available. You know that not emotionally available, often these are the types of people. So they don't mind like light flings or sexual relationships or very like superficial relationships, but once it gets to like that nitty gritty vulnerable, like, yo, let's share our feelings, let's connect, they're like, bye, I'm out, this is not for me. These people often don't like to feel restraint. They feel that relationships are very like drowning and controlling, and they feel like they have like commitment issues, like they can't commit. They feel like it's just too much for them. So they tend to, as soon as things seems to get serious, they are out. They cannot handle it, and it's just because it reminds them of what they've learned, right? Or something they've never experienced, so it feels uncomfortable. So they're reproducing that blueprint like I spoke about. A common trait that these people have is they tend to put all aspects of their lives before their romantic partner, or their priorities are not romantic partners. They often have acquaintances, so it could be very physical, it could be sexual, because sexual is different than romantic. But when it comes to close relationships, they tend to maybe have like 1 or 2 close friends. Even then, those relationships, you ask their friends, they don't know them 100% because they're very closed off and to themselves. People tend to be very narcissistic, very self-centered, because for their whole life, for the beginning of their life, they had to be self-sufficient. Like, it's like me against the world type of mentality, and that is kind of why that personality trait kind of came about. So it's kind of like, yo, I don't need anybody, I'm good all by myself. Like, easy to drop people. They're quick to break up with individuals, and that's just how they deal with their unavailability. So they tend to do the breaking up, and they tend to break up earlier on in the relationship because it just makes them so uncomfortable. Now, the last one is fearful avoidant attachment. So fearful avoidant attachment. These individuals had, I want to say like a traumatic beginning to their childhood, often experienced with grief or abandonment or abuse. So they either grew up in a household where a parent passed away, where they were abused, or they were abandoned. These individuals tend to want relationships, but they also are scared of relationships. So they're not sure, like, and I feel like this is what I am, which is funny. So they want a relationship, but they're also really scared of relationships. So they're kind of like, which one is it? You know, like, it's that fear of really committing because you know what the cost can be, but you are also crave that love, you know what I mean? So people like this tend to struggle in having confidence in others because they were let down at such an early age. They kind of expect people to let them down, so they are nervous. They are constantly waiting for that ball to drop for people to let them down. This is so me, like, it's so crazy. Like, I'm always worried. Like, I just expect people to let me down, which is so crazy to say. And that's just from my childhood, I guess. I kind of picked that up. Like, extreme, like, they're gonna hurt me. They're gonna hurt me. I'm just waiting for them to hurt me kind of like mentality. So these people tend to be very suspicious of people's intentions. This is me too. We don't necessarily trust very easily. We question intentions, action, words. Like, we are in our heads about everything. Everything, like, like it's just too much. So this one overlaps with some of them, with the one before, which is a dismissive avoidant, is we tend to push people away. And I am guilty for this one as well. We tend to push people away because we're scared of being hurt. So we tend to have very few close relationships because we don't trust people. We really think that people are going to hurt us. We think that we're going to be let down. So we tend to push people away. So if you are able to be close to someone like this, that means they actually really trust you, and they're really risking it all for you. So if you can get close to someone like that, that's pretty good. They're good at like being friendly, but to get close to them, that's why I have no friends. So that's kind of like the major overview of those attachment styles. The thing is, everyone has variation. Some people are more extreme, some people not as much, but once you're able to identify the type of attachment style you have, you are able then to be aware of what you're doing, understand the type of relationships you're attracting, the patterns you've been doing, and kind of target the root of where it's coming from. So a lot of it is your parents. A lot of it is your childhood traumas that you should be dealing with. The thing is that I also want to note is a traumatic relationship can also shift that blueprint. So for instance, in my early 20s, I had a relationship that was traumatizing, and I think it did influence my blueprint because your first love obviously plays a big part in how you see your future relationships. So that's also really important to know. But as you go through relationships, as you meet people, as you grow, you realize that all relationships are different. The only thing you can control is yourself. So instead of repeating the same patterns over and over again, be mindful. You know, and the right partner will allow you to grow and to become better, stronger, more secure in yourself. Therefore, you'll be more secure in others. I love this topic. I love relationship conversations. I think they're so fascinating. So if you guys like this, please let me know. Please give it a thumbs up. Comment down below. Let me know if there's any other topics in relationships that you guys want to hear about, because I have a lot to talk about in terms of psychology or just like experiences or advice. Yeah, so thank you for watching. I will see you guys next time, and happy Pink Day. Bye.